right, welcome to Radicalized. My name is Heidi Cuda. I'm here with Jim Stewartson, High Fidelity, Sean Connor, and as our viewers know, corporate controlled and billionaire media has failed us, so we are now officially the fourth estate, broadcasting from our various states. Yeah, I'm so glad to inform everybody that chivalry's not dead. I work with some really incredibly wonderful people, and we are going to jump right in because we have some, speaking of wonderful people, we have an update for our viewers from veteran retired IRS investigator, criminal investigator Martin Scheel on the trucker convoy GiveSendGo. What do you know, Hi-Fi?
Well, let me paraphrase it in hi-fi speak. GiveSendGo's licensing is shady as fuck, basically. Uh, GiveSendGo, they try to say they're a nonprofit charity for Christians, blah, blah, blah. They're actually an LLC out of Delaware. They are a money service business, which is a type of should be licensed organization. And it doesn't look like they have a money service business license in Delaware. Plus, all of their infrastructure is hosted in Ohio, in Amazon data centers, and they don't have a money service business license in Ohio either. So I know their payment processor Stripe is, but that's kind of weird. So hopefully some attorney general somewhere looks at that crap.
Yeah, so it's a bit hinky and funky. That's what we know so far. And I think I sent you a story this morning showing that a Canadian bank just froze some assets. I don't know if you saw that, but they
That's right.
actually,
TD Bank in Canada. Yeah.
okay, so they suspended some of their cash, the trucker convoy cash. Okay, good to know. Thank you for that little newsbreaker. Speaking of newsbreakers, I do have our friends Holly and Sharon updating us periodically on what's happening in the Ukraine situation. And speaking of Ukraine, and speaking of our incredible upcoming guest, I wasn't speaking of it, but I am now. We have Monique Camarra from the Kremlin File coming up with us
Love
in
that
a little
show.
bit. And
Fantastic
I'm
podcast.
such a fan. She's a friend. She views us as colleagues, but I'm like a fan of her. She's so incredible. So we're going to have a really vibrant conversation with her. All right. So now that we've kind of done our little preamble here, one more thing I do want to say. We have 22 patrons now. Thank you so very much. You
Thank you
guys,
guys.
we're going to put that to good use. We're going to reinvest in the show and maybe get somebody to help us a bit with doing some marketing, but we're really thrilled. And we're also looking forward to our very first Zoom with you all. So that's going to be incredibly fun. And I think Sean is trying to put that together. So that'll be
Scheduling
coming up
now. Yeah.
soon. Wonderful. Okay, so Hi-Fi, why don't you take us into the word phrase of the week?
So our word phrase of the week this week is fifth column. And what is a fifth column? A fifth column is any group of people who undermine a larger group from inside.
Yeah.
And why is this important? Well, you may have noticed that there's a lot of protests going on around the world. You may have noticed that a lot of crazy political stuff is happening. It's all thanks to Putin's fifth columns.
Yes, I have looked at our GOP since the installation of Trump as a fifth column kind of radioing, coordinates to Moscow. I mean, we've seen that. All you have to do is look at the various intel reports to see that we have very strange GOP. Looks like a fifth column to me. What do you say, guys?
Well,
Yeah.
when they're backing Russia over Ukraine, yeah.
Jim?
Look, we've got a third of the United States as the fifth column. It's not. Let's be super clear. We've had psychological warfare on us, and a third of the people in the country do not believe that Joe Biden is the president. If you believe Joe Biden is not the president, you are in a cult. And that cult is specifically there to do the business of Vladimir Putin and his allies in the United States. So, yes, a fifth column A third of the country is the fifth column at this point, and it's infiltrated all of our systems of government, our journalists, across the board, and we have to start recognizing that, or we're done here.
Oh my God, Jim, you're so right. I didn't think beyond just the people that are actually, boots on the ground facilitating this. That's just insane. But
That's
certainly
digital
that's
That's
soldiers.
accurate.
reality.
Yeah, that's reality.
That's
Damn.
the digital soldiers, which have been created by all of these psychological operations and this cult,
Yeah,
is the
yeah.
fifth column, and it is fucking
Wow.
large.
Wow. Well, thank you for that warning. And I've said from the very beginning, we can't necessarily bring them back, but we can hold the line so they don't grow their numbers.
Yeah,
And
we can. Yeah, we can. We absolutely can bring them back, and we will bring them back. We have
Brad
to.
was talking about that. Yeah, that was the.
yeah, yeah. I wish for me, I always view them like addicts. We can't will them. It's going to take like
Oh, right. Yeah,
action, a
right.
willingness. But
But now,
yeah,
Yes, but it's not. But they're
yes,
not lost causes. That's all I mean.
Well,
yes,
we could
I
absolutely.
fix
always just want
smoke.
to
Nobody
make
is.
sure that we don't see them as zombies that are
right.
Yes.
irreversible, right?
Thank you.
I sometimes refer to them as zombies, and there's a way in which they are, but these are human fucking beings who have had part of their psychology taken over by
Yeah,
fascists, and
yeah,
and we can get them back. But first, to Heidi's point, we have to hold the line, and we
yeah.
have to stop the poison that's creating more of them.
No, we need to
Yes,
fix the information environment that was built by some of Putin's fifth
Which
column people.
that's
yes.
the poison,
Part of it.
right? It's if
Yeah.
there's a whole
Mm.
poison distribution system that's been set up in the United States to create more of these people.
Yeah.
And
And from where I'm sitting, this right here is why we do the show. This right here, that conversation right here. If that can just be amplified by everybody who watches the show, send it to everybody you know. Uh, I'm I'm in awe. So thank you for that, and let's jump right now into why it matters. High Fidelity's why it matters.
Here
Hit
we
me
go.
up, Sean.
Why does it matter? Why does it matter? Why high fidelity?
High fidelity.
I just love it. My childhood friend Danielle, who watches the show, she calls you Wi-Fi, and I didn't correct her.
Everybody calls me Wi-Fi. Yeah.
Hey, man, you can't
Wi-Fi.
stop the signal no matter what you call me.
Yo, 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 Wi-Fi. Why it matter, Wi-Fi?
I am on the wire, let me tell you. All right. So, first story we're going to talk about this week is Putin's protests. And this is actually a whole bunch of stories kind of wrapped into one big story. We've got the anti-vax, anti-mandate protests going on in Canada that has been tied to far-right elements in both Canadian politics and American politics. We have the convoy in Paris that is disrupting France. We have a protest in Germany that they are fighting with the police. We have protests all over the globe. And really, this is Putin's fifth column at work. He is
Mm,
causing chaos. He is distracting these governments from what he's about to do to Ukraine. There you go.
wow.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'm going to be
Yeah.
talking about that whole thing in Hellscape is how he has turned everything that he's been doing psychologically, non-kinetically, into basically chaos agents that he can use for his kinetic war, right? You've got people
Yeah.
on the Canadian border stopping people from doing business between the United States and Canada. That is literally the fifth column. Do you have that? Live cam, Sean?
Yeah, let me grab it.
Because you could literally see the fifth column there. It's like a psychological operation was pointed at Canada, right?
Yeah.
Like, think of it as a giant weapon, right? Pointed at
Yeah.
Canada in order to activate the people there to do this, to create a fucking blockade against the
You just-
United
just-
States.
Well, let's
Because
talk
of
about some of the
fucking
telltale
bullshit,
signs.
because of lies, because of mass hysteria that's made
Yeah.
up by the allies of Vladimir Putin.
Yeah.
So
Which
that's
are
the
white
fifth column right there,
supremacists.
right in front of us.
I mean, if you look at some of the flags these people are holding, you know, there was a Nazi flag.
Communist
There
flag
are these
from Russia.
bizarre American Canada flag monstrosities. Like where I come from, you
Trump
don't
flags.
Trump
Oh,
flags. Why are there Trump flags in Ottawa?
There's
fucking
USSR
right.
flags. Yeah. Bizarre.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's fifth column warfare. Just
Yeah.
period.
Fifth column warfare based on 100-year-old Mussolini tactics. You know,
Yeah.
we've seen this play before. None of it's new. It's just, unfortunately, once again, the platforms they use to spread these operations are new. I've asked Holly and Sharon to update us periodically throughout the taping. And one of the things that just Holly sent, these are viewer friends of ours, and I'm going to tell Monique the same thing, that Poland just opened up its country to Americans fleeing Ukraine right now, and you know, these are the types of things that are going on in real time.
Well, you know,
No
pe-
advance approval required.
yeah, people are going to say that no, you can't tie these protests to Russia, but you know, and we're talking craziness. But here's the thing: if you look at who's behind all these protests and who has the money, who's getting the money behind these
Yeah.
protests, it's all far, far right,
Yeah.
nationalists,
Yeah.
white
Yeah.
And
supremacists.
the other
Yeah.
thing that is important that we're saying, it's to articulate the fact that we're not saying that Russia caused all these things specifically. They work to amplify things. This may very well have been on its way just to be the way that it is without Russian influence. But there is influence that exacerbates situations, that amplifies situations, that makes them
Oh.
more difficult than it would have been otherwise. It's not a play,
Yes.
does that make
And
sense?
generally, it doesn't take that much to find the money behind so much
Sure.
of this. Is often the same usual suspects of domestic traitor, Kremlin operatives, the churchy CNP type. So it's always kind of like, you know, when you see it, you can always kind of go, oh yeah, this looks like this looks like a CNP funded op, and we're rarely wrong. I mean, I don't
Right.
think we've been wrong yet. And if you look at just the Mueller report alone, and just that war fighting thread that I always talk about, that NATO report. Yes, you can have organic frustrations in a country. Yes, that's not no question. But what happens is through the psyops, through the disinformation, through the propaganda, it all becomes amplified. And as our guest last week said from Canada, only 10% of the truckers are not vaccinated. This is not about vaccines.
exactly.
This is not about COVID. There may be a percentage of people who don't want to wear a mask, even though they're willing to go, as our friend Noel said, they're willing to go into trucker bathrooms. You know, you don't want to wear a mask, but you're going to go into these truck stop bathrooms, which kind of grody.
That's where
I
COVID
thought
came
that was
from.
funny. But the point being that what our guest last week, Brad Galloway, said was that this is a white supremacy thing. This is and that's what he's seeing, and I think that there's incontrovertible evidence that is accurate.
Absolutely, absolutely. So let's move on.
Guess what
All
next?
right, so the next one. It's time we talk about the elephant in the room. In this case, we're talking about cybersecurity. And there is a threat group in India called Modified Elephant. They work for the Hindu nationalist BJP party. Now that's Narendra Modi, right? And one thing I'd like to point out about Narendra Modi, possibly the only person who would ever get Donald Trump to visit India. So, there's no connections there. But what this Modified Elephant group did is they would actually hack into the electronic devices of opposition parties, and they would plant digital evidence which those who oppose the BJP would be arrested for. So they
So
planted evidence, and then the people were arrested shortly thereafter. It was a coordinated looking effort.
so remotely they can plant this evidence. So for our viewers, the cop who tries to plant the marijuana or the cocaine in the back seat of a car, this is the technological equivalent of this.
This is the digital version of that. What they would do is
Fuck.
they would send something called a phishing email, right? And they would get someone to click on a link or open an attachment, and through this phishing attempt, they would install malware on the target's electronic device, and then through that malware, which is called a rat, they would actually get into the device and plant the evidence.
Shit. This is
And they've
not
been doing
good.
it for at least 10 years. And
Yeah,
here's the
This is
thing, if you
not
think this
good.
is only happening in India,
yeah.
no, this
Yeah,
is
we,
everywhere.
Wow.
we advanced this technology a while ago, right?
Yeah. So
Wow.
that's a big, scary story. And I'm sure if, Putin's fifth column takes over the United States in the midterms, we're probably going to be seeing quite a bit of this here, especially when it comes to things like, the GOP is already saying, well, we're going to lock up the January 6th committee. Well, I wonder how they're going to do that. Anyway, let's move
Well,
on.
deep fakes, now we're worrying about deep plants. That's a really important story. I'm glad that you brought it to our attention. Yeah, moving on. Damn.
Moving on. So the final one we're going to talk about is Alabama. Goddamn.
Mm.
Why did I say this? Well, Nina Simone wrote Mississippi. Goddamn. But now
Love
it's
her.
Alabama. What does that mean? The Supreme Court of the United States allowed Alabama to keep a heavily, heavily gerrymandered political map for voting in the midterms that absolutely 100,000% dilutes African American voices in the state of Alabama. They were sued over it, and the Supreme Court said, nah, we're good. I don't know how we can continue to perpetrate the racism of politics. It's kind of
Well,
disturbing. We're not moving forward. We're moving
with
backwards.
6 Supreme Court justices. That's how.
Yeah, that's right. It's not
Yeah,
just in politics either, as you see with the Elon Musk defamation suit, with horrifying allegations in that case, and the complaints that come out. And I can't even repeat them, but it's racism. It was institutionalized. It was allowed to continue. I mean, and the degradation of these people is just it was horrifying, and that's in the civil sector.
before we continue on to your legal briefs, I think we should just pause for a moment and acknowledge that if a president was installed with the help of a foreign mafia state and their military, then I don't think that person's Supreme Court justices are authentic in any way. And they certainly don't represent the majority of the country. And I don't know, other than flooding the court, what we can do other than,
well, it would be nice if
de-authentic.
it would be nice if we actually investigated Brett Kavanaugh and all those 4,000 tips that came into that
That
FBI
too.
tip line that somehow got fucking lost.
Yeah,
Maybe we need to do that.
I'll go over a lot of that in Hellscape. A lot of
Great.
how because listen, until we really recognize the actual fifth column that's in place and the actual people who are running this and what they did in 2016, right? Until we see that and recognize it for it is and get past the psyop that this Russia thing is a conspiracy, then we're just gonna still muddle around and what do? What we do is we kick them the fuck off because they were put
Yeah.
in place by a Russian spy.
Thank you.
That's it.
Oh.
Kick them the fuck off and replace them
Tell us how you really
Thank
feel,
you.
Jim.
with
Anyway,
No, but
Hillary's
he's right.
picks, for
he
God's
is
sake.
right. That's
It's
the
that
worst part.
simple. That's right. That's right. We had a Russian spy. That Russian spy should not be allowed to put 3 Supreme Court justices. And by the way, a prior Supreme Court justice had a wife who was involved in the insurrection. This is fucking insanity. We must look insane from other countries. We really do. We must look
Can
absolutely
we
insane.
can we not
Are
call him a
right. The
Russian
body
spy?
politic is insane. We have been
Yeah.
radicalized
Yeah.
by this so hard that we are
Yeah.
insane. Like you add the total
The aggregate.
like mentality of the United States, and we have been driven insane. I'm sorry, but that's
Well,
what it
that is
is.
why Putin said we broke their minds. Like the
Yes.
motherfucker said
Yeah.
that. And that's
Yeah.
coming from that insane bitch Vladimir Putin. So I don't know
He
what that means.
he may have broken our minds, but we're gonna break his balls. This
I'm
show
gonna
is gonna
break his fucking face.
we're gonna win. This
Oh yeah.
show is we're gonna win, right, Jim? Come on, let's give him a speech. We're gonna win, guys. It's desperate, it's dark before the dawn, but damn it, we're gonna win. Come on.
We listen. We are not powerless. Let's say that.
Yes,
We are
We
okay,
not
got
I like
NATO.
powerless, but
that.
we have there are shoes to drop. Indeed.
Yes, yes,
How
we
about we
do.
put some
And
shoes up some people's backsides? Anyway,
on that rousing note of team spirit here, Mr.
hoorah.
Connor, do you I'm gonna get some fucking pom poms and bring him out sometimes. I was a cheerleader back in the day. So
No. You-
I was in Catholic
I
school.
believe
Yes, I
you.
was. I
I'm
I
gonna come
was.
on
believe
this
you.
show wearing a
I was
cheerleader outfit
adorable.
sometime.
You
Oh
are.
no,
You
that's a whole
started there.
kink.
Yeah, that's a weird cake. Let's not go there. Anyway,
That's a weird kink. Hey, Connor, do you have a few legal briefs before we dive into Hellscape? I'm so excited about Hellscape and
Just a
your
quick
legal briefs.
thanks, Heidi. So
Full
anyway,
disclaimer, not your briefs, your legal briefs.
just real quick, it's another Elon Musk suit. So they've a lawsuit filed against them for racial discrimination and harassment, and it's pretty graphic to go and read the complaint. But again, this falls in line with a pattern of behavior that we've seen from Elon Musk and his corporations and his businesses for a while now. This is in California. The discrimination of employees dates back to early 2012, which is terrible to think about how long that's been going on. I mean, some of the stuff that these workers have been objected to is just horrifying, and I really hope they get their moment in court and that they don't get stuck with the bullshit arbitration clauses and everything that they have that Tesla's been relying on for years. So that was the main one. Was Tesla and his ongoing, I guess, circus of discrimination, bigotry, hatred, and no tax paying.
Yeah.
Yeah, not a fan. Not a fan.
Elon Musk is a
Dude
fucking
comes from
problem.
apartheid.
Hey,
I'm sorry,
hey.
but
Yeah, it does.
Okay,
that's where
yes.
it comes from.
I warned. There's only one rule
I
on the
didn't
show
go
now.
off. I didn't go off.
Hi-Fi's not allowed to talk about his member anymore. I think that's a bridge too low for us. So I was like, anyway, but
Not allowed to
yes,
talk what?
he is a fucking problem.
I'm not allowed to say Elon Musk and.
You got the dumb button here.
Did you just mute me? Oh my god! I didn't.
Jim, don't make him. I know this is not the anagram hour, but because this is a jocular show, I did come up with an Elon Musk anagram that I'm really proud of.
She was so proud.
Numbskull.
What?
Numbskull.
Yeah.
But that
Numbskull?
yeah, numbskull.
Yeah,
It's
to
pretty
work
good.
on your strategies there.
What is skull? What is skull? I know. I know.
Skull
what
means
level.
like drink heavy.
The
Like,
skull
slam
Okay.
the
does that mean lizard?
It's a lizard.
lizard.
Yeah,
All right,
that's
hold
it.
on. All right, you
You
got
know
another
what?
legal brief, Sean?
No, that's it. You guys were making fun of somebody who's had
Okay.
COVID symptoms.
Oh.
no,
I'm just kidding.
Your,
I'm joking.
Your legal
We're going
briefs
into
are important. I'm glad that we've added that in. It's really very important. And also, what I want to make sure we start doing is following up on some of the earlier legal briefs that you've done, so we keep people informed on how things are working their way through the courts.
You can set
All
up
right.
alerts. That's what I've done. So when new updates come up, we'll pop them in.
You're going to set up an alert.
I got alerts going on.
An alert's going to blow up Sean's pager. I've been so uptight because I want to make sure our interview with Monique is so good, and now I'm loosening right up. So this feels good.
Out. Yeah.
Okay, so here's the thing. I'm going to chill out during Hellscape, LOL.
Jim Stewartson's Hellscape. Oh, fuck.
So look, I wrote an article on my Substack that basically does an overview of one way of looking at what we're seeing right now, both in the United States and Ukraine.
Great.
Because I think there's a whoa, Careful. That was,
Hey,
You
strobing
got
light
it.
warning, bro.
yeah, that's
Yeah. It was not intentional. I'll cut that out.
some kind of warfare
Very good. Good.
technique. Anyway, so I think it's very important for people to understand the real narrative of how we're seeing what we've seen in the United States and how that connects to what we're seeing now overseas and in Europe. So I wrote a story starting in more or less 2015, which is when I believe you can say World War III was agreed to, if not declared.
Wow.
And I think the two main people, three if you include Trump, but I think the two operators are Vladimir Putin and Mike Flynn. In 2015, as we know, Mike Flynn sat with Vladimir Putin at a Russia Today gala. Mike Flynn reportedly was the first person to his feet after Vladimir Putin gave his speech. Also, very low in the corner there is Jill Stein, who did everything in her power to surgically create the difference that was needed in order for Trump to win the three battleground states. And Mike Flynn is there. So right after this, Flynn starts to put together his coalition, right? And his coalition, the leaders of the coalition, I think to anyone who's been following me are well known. It's Mike Flynn, Eric Prince, Steve Bannon, Peter Thiel, and Roger Stone.
Yep.
And between those five people who are fully compromised, anti-democratic Putin allies, put a plan in place to run psychological operations in the United States to flip the election to Donald Trump.
Mm-hmm.
And the record of this now is super clear. It's taken me a long time, 18 months, 18 hours a day, to sort of sort through the entire timeline. But to me, at this point, it's clear. They got together, and then at the Republican National Convention in 2016, this is an incredibly important event. Everybody was there. Roger Stone, Peter Thiel, Mike Flynn, Trump, every white supremacist, shitlord, troll, meme factory, weirdo, neo-Nazi on planet Earth was there. And they put together a plan. Also, Side Group was there, importantly. Side Group is an Israeli company that ran political psyops for a living, run by ex-members of Mossad and Unit 8200. Yes, sir.
Two details I want to point out that weren't in your article, but as I live in Cleveland, I know these details.
Yeah.
A lot of the RNC people were hanging out, staying at hotels that were owned by the Ukrainian oligarch Kolomoisky, and there was a massive influx of prostitutes into Cleveland at that same time.
Yeah.
What does that matter? Compromise.
Well, listen, guess who was in charge of surveillance of Republicans at the RNC? Side Group. Literally.
Wow.
Side Group
Bingo.
was in charge of surveillance of Republicans at the RNC. So if
Wow.
anyone's wondering where the compromise came from, anyway, that's off to the side. So because this we need to move this forward. So we're
Right.
at the RNC, and they form a group called MAGA 3X, and and anyone who's followed me knows I've been harping on these guys for a while. MAGA
Yes.
3X was Flynn, Thiel, Roger Stone, Jeff Gasea, Jack Posobiec, a guy named James Brower, who will become very important, Mike Flynn Jr., Mike Cernovich. I'm doing this from memory, but all of these guys were in this group called MAGA3X, which was a political action committee, and it was formed right after the RNC. And this one group ran numerous psyops. It did Seth Rich stuff. It did Podesta emails. It cooperated with WikiLeaks to push the Podesta emails, and the Podesta emails were turned into Pizzagate. Pizzagate, it was the precursor to QAnon, and it was created by MAGA3X.
May I
Heidi,
ask
do
one
you
quick
need
question?
to?
I know you want to keep moving on, but I think if I have a question, the viewers might want to know too. So these people that you tell us about, and
Yeah.
some of these names you just mentioned, I need to know if they are doing this for the money, or if they're doing this because they're true believers. Are they white supremacists? Is it all of the above? Are they just opportunists? Are they corrupt? Like, why do
So
this
here,
type of work?
wait, no, high five. Hold on. There's four things in counterintelligence that they come at that they use. Right, money is one.
Okay.
The acronym is MICE. It's easy.
Ah, yeah.
Money, ideology,
Okay.
compromising information, and
Right.
ego.
Oh,
Ego is very
okay.
important because
Okay.
all of these people are fucking narcissists. All
Okay.
of them. They're
Okay.
all malignant narcissists and sociopaths, right?
So it's not like they just got compromised, or it's a mixture of this stuff,
It's
because
a
that
mix.
makes a
It's
lot of sense.
always a mixture of these things. You can't
Thank
look
you.
at it like,
Thank you.
when I say like it's a paid operative, yeah, there's money involved, but they
Yeah.
also, like, a lot of them believe this shit.
Perfect.
There are some people who literally just get paid to lark, to pretend to be
Okay.
somebody else, which we will come to soon. But there are also people who get paid to be weaponized, right? Like they believe a thing, or they're on one
Hmm.
side of it, they're on the left or whatever. They're, kind of aggressive. And then somebody throws some money at them and suddenly they're a fucking weapon, right?
Hmm. Yeah, that's
So
great.
it's a combination of these things.
Thank you for that. I really needed to know
That's
that.
the answer.
Thank you.
Anyway, so MAGA3X runs a whole bunch of these psyops, and flipped the election to Donald Trump. Just one of these operations, in which Mike Flynn paid Brian McCauley, which is an FBI agent, to validate this nonsense story about Hillary's laptop that caused James Comey to reopen her email
Right.
investigation, which easily cost her 5 or 6 points. Easily. Like, you just watch it right after that happened. And just that, and that was run by Flynn and MAGA3X and that whole operation. Throw in Pizzagate, throw in Seth Rich, throw in all of the horrible shit, throw in the infiltration to the Bernie Bros.
Yeah.
All like the reason why Bernie Bros got so caustic was because they were infiltrated. That
Right.
is how these guys operated. They had a fucking manual that said that's how they operated.
Yeah. It's so
So in
clear looking
2016,
back.
and this is very important, 2016, a lot of these operatives that still exist, some of them, many of them, were put in place in order to create assets on all sides of the ideological spectrum, right? So we have a bunch of people on the right wing, but also there were a lot of people being infiltrated on the left.
Yeah.
And they were put in
Bad.
place as early as 2016. One example I'll give you is Chapo Trap House. And I'm going to say it out loud, and they're not going to like it. But Chapo Trap House was formed in March of 2016 for a reason: to push the Russia narrative from the left. And they've been doing it for a long time and have, expanded out into different areas. But that's a troll group that was put in place.
Yeah.
So 2017, starts to roll around. Mike Flynn Jr. gets kicked off the transition because he's pushing Pizzagate, which is
Right.
hilarious because it's Mike Flynn's psyop. Regardless, Mike Flynn gets put in as national
It's
security advisor.
disturbing. It's
He
disturbing.
lasts he lasts like two Scaramucci's because the FBI figures out that that he fucking talked to the Russians about sanctions, right? About fucking sanctions, lifting sanctions on the Russian government before Flynn was in the government. It's just illegal. So they asked him about it and he lied about it. And they're like, fuck, he's a Russian spy. So,
I think
there's what.
President Obama may have intimated that, a few months
So
earlier.
Sally Yates runs to the White House and goes, Flynn's a spy. And they go, oh, okay. And then they fire Sally Yates and keep Flynn around for 3 weeks. While, he does God knows what. And finally he gets fired. So
Yeah.
the reason why I'm telling this story is because it's very relevant to what happens next in 2017. Because in 2017, now Flynn's in a different situation than he thought, right? Flynn thought he was going to be the fucking national security advisor. Instead, he's all wrapped up in this new Mueller investigation, right? He's
Yeah.
fucked and fired and pissed off. If you thought he was
Yeah.
pissed off before at Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton, wait till now.
Yeah.
Now he's
Wow.
fucked. So MAGA 3X, this group that was there, rolls like kind of rolls down, but a whole bunch of other weird shit starts to roll up. And in September 2017, Mike Flynn launches his defense fund, right? In September 2017, Mike Flynn launches his defense fund, where he collects money to defend himself from his own confessions of doing illegal things.
Yeah.
And in October 2017, a bunch of people from MAGA 3X start Q.
Sorry.
Is simply an alter ego of Flynn.
Right.
So you go back to all the early Q drops, like Q drop 14, the whole thing is about Flynn and about how amazing he is, and lays out the literal plan he's been doing ever since. And the
Yeah.
first 13 are from MAGA 3X guys who are pushing all of his exact points as well. It was
Yeah.
Flynn's psyop from the beginning because he did not have a voice. The voice he did not have was because he was under investigation. And a month after Q was launched, Mike Flynn confessed and agreed to cooperate with Mueller, which was nonsense. He was just biding his time.
Yeah.
I
So in
wondered
the
about
meantime,
that, Jim. Yeah,
Q
go
gets
ahead.
started, starts
Mhm.
moving along, and all of Flynn's people are running it.
Yeah.
Remember, let's be clear, they change over the course of Q's existence, and I can lay all those people out. Not important right now, but it's MAGA 3X, and then it's Tracy Diaz and Jerome Corsi, who's a CNP Council for National Policy member and a friend of both Roger Stone and Julian Assange, are running fucking Q through the first half of 2018. And then the old guys, the MAGA 3X guys, take back over in the summer. And so we can get into it, but that shit's now all figured out.
Yes,
So
we're going to come back to that.
we will come back to that at a different point. It doesn't matter.
It's so granular.
But at an important, but one important thing at the RNC that I need to point out. Remember, please. Paul Manafort forced the RNC to take out the anti-Russia line about Ukraine.
Yeah.
That's it. That was the only thing that Donald Trump gave a shit about. We just need to pause and think about this. Yes. Literally the only policy change that Donald Trump asked for at the RNC was to protect Putin about Ukraine.
Yep.
Right? Now,
and his
fast
man
forward
Paul
to
Manafort.
2019. What happens in 2019? Rudy Giuliani goes to Ukraine to try to get them to bring up a bunch of shit bring up lies about Donald Trump. And Trump even pressures Zelensky, which gets him impeached, right? Again,
Well, they were trying to come up with the Biden
Ukraine,
psyop.
right? What?
Well, they were trying to come up with the Biden psyop with the bullshit laptop
Absolutely,
stories and the
totally.
firing the
So,
prosecutor.
and it was
And
all
sure,
with Russian assets, with fucking literal Russian spies, right?
which we
Is
talked
what
about,
is how
that
Rudy's
those
doing it.
people are now sanctioned. Like the guy who owned the TV stations, he's under
Totally.
sanctions now
So
because of that bullshit.
Rudy lost his bar
Yep.
license. Rudy's fucked. He's cooperating
Yep.
at this point.
Yep.
You know he
Yep.
is,
Oh yeah.
because he's old and he wants to be out of jail at some point.
He wants to keep sipping on
So
cognac.
We gotta,
anyway,
we gotta,
so
we gotta
just
ask
I
her.
just want to keep kind of move this forward because I know it's a long story. So anyway, we go through 2019, and these assets on the left, by the way, are inventing this kind of rehistory of how Q started,
That's
and
right.
start this new story about how it's actually Ron Watkins running Q, and it's all, that's fucking
That brain
bullshit.
trust.
That's
Yeah.
nonsense.
Yeah.
So all of
You
that
mean
shit.
lack of brain trust?
So all of that
It
shit
was
gets built up
being
in
hyperbolic.
in 2019, and then 2020, at the beginning of 2020, we get hit with this fucking pandemic, right? And the fucking pandemic is perfect for all of the bad people, because it happens in China, which China is the number one target geopolitically, other than the United States, of Russia. And
Shit.
so everyone can now point at China as the enemy instead of Russia, right? Which they're stoked about, and they can use it to generate anti-vax propaganda, which is perfect fodder for a great replacement, neo-Nazi, all
All
of
the
the
ugly.
QAnon shit. It's perfect for it, and Trump just jumps right in. And not only that, like, intentionally botches the COVID with Kushner, the COVID
Yeah.
response, killing hundreds of thousands of Americans for
Yeah.
politics, which is a whole
Right.
different, like,
Right.
crime against humanity that needs to be
Right.
prosecuted. Anyway,
Hell
Fifth
to the
column says
yes.
what? Fifth column
Yeah.
says what?
Hell to
yes.
the yes. Hell to the
So
yes.
so so this fucking cult now, right, which was started by Flynn's people. Remember, on 4chan, moved to
Yeah.
8chan, and started to
Yeah.
grow and grow and grow through
Yeah.
2019, and had this cover story over here about how it was all mysterious and no one could ever figure it out, right? Like,
Yeah.
that was all going on in 2019. 2020 rolls around, and everybody on planet Earth is forced to be sitting in front of their computer all day, every day. Can't go outside, can't do anything but sit in front of their computer all day long and get God knows radicalized one way or the other, right? You're going to have people who are now super pissed off and all they want to do is kill Nazis, and then you're going to have all the Nazis over here who are growing and growing and growing freely on the Russian app called Telegram. Anyway, they tried to kill the election in 2020, right? They almost got there, right? There's no fucking way that election should have been that close.
That's right.
Donald Trump was the worst possible president. He did the most possible damage he could, right? But somehow it was real close. Guess why? Because a third of America is now, at some level, in a cult,
Yeah.
in a fascist cult that was started and created and grew and metastasized from Flynn's psyop starting in 2017, right? Because he was mad that he couldn't talk anymore. So he grew digital soldiers for 3 years, tens of millions of them, right? And we had them ready. When the election didn't go their way, they retired Q. Flynn immediately gets pardoned, and now Flynn just comes out and basically is Q himself, right? Now he's doing marches, now he's doing rallies. Now Flynn is the front man, and Q basically retires with one of Flynn's favorite songs, Twisted Sisters,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to take it. We're not going to take it anymore, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Q, remember, right in the same week, Q retires with Flynn's favorite song. Flynn then
Mm-hmm.
goes on a QAnon show. The first thing he does and basically announces that the digital soldiers that he's been building for years are now it's time to activate and really get going.
Mm-hmm.
A
And
month
here we are.
later, 1/6 happens.
Mm-hmm.
And it is very important to understand that the thread that I'm trying to pull together here is that these psychological operations that have been put in place over all of these years that have affected a third of the American people to the
Mm-hmm.
extent that they believe lies,
Mm-hmm.
that's preparatory warfare. It
Okay.
diminishes us. It causes chaos. It makes us weak. It makes our
Mm-hmm.
allies not trust us.
Mm-hmm.
All of these things are intentionally there to prepare the ground for a more strategic and more kinetic war,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I'll skip largely through
Yeah,
2021. We've all
got,
lived through it.
got the,
But through
I guess,
2021, because we have not done anything to stop it, because Flynn has been continuing for a fucking year after 1/6, continuing to mindfuck people, to grow his cult, to organize militias, to get the 1AP and the Oath Keepers and the Proud Boys and all of these guys organized and ready. We haven't done anything to stop that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now Flynn has a third of the American people
Mm-hmm.
as a fifth column,
Mm-hmm.
right? He's got a bunch of law enforcement. He's got a bunch of everyone from school boards to sheriffs and everybody all the way up in place. We've all seen it, right? It's all in place, and a million militia, like hardcore domestic violent extremists, I think is the number.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there is going to be kinetic action in the United States, which matches the kinetic action that we're going to see in Ukraine.
Okay.
And it's really, really the reason I'm trying to, and forgive me for the kind of long rambling thing,
It's
but
important.
what I'm trying to do is tie together the intention and the result so that we can see very clearly what's next. And what's
Okay.
next is extremely dangerous. What's next
Okay.
is an existential point at which we decide to be a democracy or not.
That's right. That's right.
And what we're seeing in Ukraine is what we will see here, what we've
Okay.
already seen here psychologically, right? We've already
Yeah.
been invaded. We've already
Yeah.
had a third of our people captured,
Right.
right? And so we either need to be able to stand up to that and do what is necessary to prevent what will happen next, or we're going to go the way Ukraine is about to go.
All I know is I always hear echoes of history in my head. And Jim, I say it all the time. There was never a day that the German people woke up and the majority voted for Hitler. That's not what this is about. What Jim just walked us through is the very dire warning that Malcolm Nance has been talking about, which is we are in the last inning of democracy.
We
So
are.
what are we going to do? What are we going to do? Jim,
And
that
and
was
and I just
nothing
need
short of
everyone to
brilliant.
get it that this is
You know,
not some sort of organic fucking this was a plan.
thank you.
There's a reason Ukraine was taken out of the platform at the RNC 6 years ago.
Yes.
And there's a reason why over that 6 years, NATO has been weakened. The United States has been weakened. All of these brainwashed people and anti-vaxxers and fascist groups and
Yep.
neo-Nazis, there's a reason why all of those things have been accelerated, why the American media has been infiltrated by
Yep.
Russian propaganda, but why Fox News has great replacement theory on every fucking night
Yep.
now.
Yep.
Why we
Yep.
have Newsmax and OAN and RSBN.
Yeah.
Because the Russians saw the opportunity to put a puppet in the White House to weaken the United States so he could prepare for this day.
And that's what our
And
guest is going to
everyone
talk
needs
about
to be
more.
aware of it.
Talk
And
about the
that's the end
Russian.
of my rant for
Yeah.
today.
No, that was
About the
brilliant. Bravo, man. Bravo. That was important. And yes, as Sean is saying, we've got Monique in the waiting room, and we're going to talk about some of this and a lot more. Wow. Wow, this is such a powerful just a powerful timeline. The evidence is all there, and you really brought it on home. And it's very sobering, but with this information comes power. So now you guys know. So everybody can move forward and bring it into their neighborhoods and let people know this is real and this is what's happening. Brilliant freaking newser, you guys. And I think now we should just move right on to our interview with Monique from Kremlin File.
Can't wait.
OMG. We have a smoking hot guest for you, as I've been bragging about. Monique Camarra,
Oh my
all the way from Kremlin File, all the
Hey
way from
guys.
Italy.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
this is
right. That's right.
really exciting. Although I would much rather be talking to you about my beloved Lino Ventura, there's fuckery afoot, and you have the kind of expertise that we need. I'll do a little brief intro, then I'd love you to do a little brief intro. As I mentioned, she is the co-host of the amazing podcast Kremlin File. She also is an incredible expert in kinetic and non-kinetic warfare. And she is coming to us all the way from Siena, Italy, where she is also a professor in communications. And I'm so happy you're here, and we have so much to talk about. Can you tell our guests a little bit about yourself before we jump right in?
Oh dear. Oh dear. Okay. What would you like to know? Well, I'm from originally.
Why you've been up
Let's start
all
it.
night?
Oh yeah. No. Well. Okay. Well, let me just start off by saying that I'm from Toronto, Canada. Originally, I was born there. Let's say daughter of Italian immigrants, and then I fell in love. Okay, with Siena, the city where I am now. And what started happening, what keeps me up at night, was that around, I would say, 2014, with Ukraine and what was happening there in the Maidan. And then I started seeing a lot of disturbing developments here in Italy, okay, politically. And it was rooted in populism, but it was sort of a radical, destructive kind because of what I was seeing coming out of social media, especially. And it scared me, especially the, how can I put it? The whole rhetoric, all of the language that was being used, because you need to know that I teach communication, political communication. I grew up in a family. My mom's a politician in Canada. And so I was used to listening to people speak, right? And the way that they present discourse. And I saw this completely radical change. It scared the shit right out of me. And I said, oh my God, what is happening? What is going on? So I started following everything. And then Brexit came along. And then Trump came along. And that's really where everything exploded. And I said, I just started doing research night and day. Besides what I do at the university. Yeah. But it was, it's a scary time. And you guys know,
Yeah.
because you're following everything and you know what is happening. And then especially, let's say the election, I followed that really closely. I had also another podcast where I talked about what was going on for the two campaigns, the GOP, if we want to call them the GQP, whatever you want to call them. I don't know what the fuck you can call
Fifth
Trump. I
column.
really don't.
No,
Yeah, exactly. Also because I followed the whole presidency. And
Yeah.
it was absolutely nuts. He would say
Terrifying.
something. Yeah. I mean, something would come out of Russia and he would just mimic. Okay. And just,
Yeah.
regurgitate. And this was it. Because his whole thing was to separate. And this is
Mhm.
exactly what Russia wanted: separate the United States from Europe, make
Yep.
sure that they were as far, and get them out of NATO, because he had already
Mhm.
started, right? We know, okay?
Yeah, we know.
The Open Skies Treaty, okay?
Mm.
The Paris, for climate.
Paris Accord.
Yeah. Mhm.
Thank you. Yes. So he was really following exactly what Russia wanted him to do. Okay. He was
Mhm.
Russia's greatest gift.
That's
So
right.
that scared us. That really, really scared us. I hooked up with Olga because, as I was saying before, and we were discussing before,
She's so great.
I had followed Olga for years, and I said, "Oh my God, she is just wonderful."
Yes, she is.
In terms of analysis and the
Mhm.
materials she was uncovering and publishing, I just said, okay, I need to talk to her. We had a
Yeah.
3-hour conversation, which we recorded, and I put it in a podcast.
Wonderful.
And then we hooked up afterwards, and we said, okay, let's get going and get this information out, because people need to understand this. People need to understand that what we're living
Yeah.
today was something that was generated starting from, let's say, 2000. Well, really, if we think about it, from the Second Chechen War in 1999, 2000. Then you go right up into 2000, and 4, which was the first time that we see actual electoral meddling, Putin trying to get his guy
Mhm.
in Ukraine. Okay.
Mhm. Mhm.
And then after that, we get into Crimea, and then Ukraine again, and the Donbass. I mean, this is really his desire to change our world order. This is it.
Mhm.
And it's happening now. It's happening as we're speaking. This shit keeps me up at night. This is what keeps me up at
Mhm.
night. Because I
Yeah,
think
but
there's so many people. I don't know about you guys, and maybe you can I mean, are you finding that there are people that just don't get this, that don't understand this,
I-
Yeah.
this fundamental?
I remember when we spoke briefly before, that was one of the
Yeah.
discussions we had, was that, we have a pushback against some of this, particularly discussions of Russia or Putin and sort of his involvement in various meddlings. And it's bizarre in that, we have, we've all experienced it here on the podcast, is when we discuss these things in depth or with any detail, we get sort of some of the criticism is, that we're blue anon, which is basically we're horseshoeing back into, we're believing conspiracy
Oh,
theories.
yeah.
We're spreading conspiracy theories
Mhm.
ourselves, even though we're just discussing things with people such as yourself, who is, obviously an expert in the topic. And there is
Oh,
some
yeah. So
definite pushback to the Russian,
Yeah.
When I started my investigation in August of 2020, my first article, which I posted a couple weeks later, was about Flynn and the Russians. And
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
immediately from
Oh,
that
yeah.
day forward, I was a target,
Sure.
not just of the far right, but of the far left,
Yeah.
Mhm.
who are equally as vehement
Yeah.
and equally as upset with you if you mention the Russians in any way.
Yep.
It's just an extension of Trump's psyop, frankly.
Yeah.
Russia, Russia, Russia. All you want to do
Yeah.
is talk about Russia.
Yeah.
that's
Well,
right.
And it was
this
basically
is
gaslit into people's minds that Russia was a conspiracy theory, right?
yeah, exactly. Well, the whole exactly, Russia, if you're listening to me, and then the whole business
Yeah.
afterwards. I mean, look, the you're absolutely right about the influence that Russia has on the far left and far right. Okay. And we know that goes all the way back to fascism, because fascism
Yeah.
was, right, a combination
Mhm.
of the two, socialism and nationalism together. And we know that
Mhm.
started with, let's say, Mussolini, and then, right, who was the mentor to Hitler.
Mhm.
And today we still have their factions. I mean, I'm talking to you from Italy, where even inside a mainstream centrist left party, okay, which, that's my area. Okay, I'm much more of a centrist. There's a faction that, I was all afternoon, I got completely pissed off because they're saying, oh no, NATO is, we have to abolish NATO. And we've got to, right? This plays into, you're
That's
doing Putin a favor when you do that. Okay?
100%.
That's the whole
And
thing. NATO is a defensive alliance. Okay. It was put there. It was started as a defense against, okay, what was going on with Russia. Then for a few years, it was actually quite dormant. Thanks to Putin, right? It's been revived in this past period. All right.
Right.
So,
yeah,
but
we
even
put there as a
politically,
safety mechanism, right?
yeah, exactly. And Jim, you're absolutely right. It's not just the far right. They've penetrated. We need to understand that Russia has been at this. The Kremlin has been at this. Putin has been at this. And all of the Soviki, the people that are around him, have been at this for years. The penetration, the economic, exactly, economic, and also, and we're seeing it now in the States, right? But let's remember that it's here in Italy. I can give you a whole list of people, right, that are politically, economically compromised, okay, in different ways. We even had, Berlusconi was.
Well,
he was the first.
Hold on. I want to talk about Berlusconi.
What would you like to know?
The president of our country was an asset. So
yeah. Well, so was ours.
Oh, that's true. Pardon me. Forgive me.
Well, actually, no, he wasn't an asset. Hold on. Sorry. Hi-Fi. What did you want to ask?
So, you talk about Mussolini grooming or, assisting Hitler. I kind of feel like Berlusconi taught Putin how to be a gangster. Does that sound right to you?
Oh, yeah. He should pretty much. Well, let's just put it this way. Putin, we see, okay, how he came out from St. Petersburg. All right. And that was his real training ground. Okay. When he worked for Sobchak in St. Petersburg. Sobchak was the mayor, and he was handling all sorts of contracts, okay, with foreign companies. And instead of procuring let's say the materials that he was supposed to, this money disappeared. Okay. So he was already, okay, in business with the Tambov, okay, clan in St. Petersburg. And let's remember that St. Petersburg is important. All port cities are extremely important because you've got stuff coming in there that is controlled by the actual people who own the port. And in this case, they're mafia. Okay. So what did Berlusconi teach Putin was, first of all of the media side of everything. Okay. And he sent up, Berlusconi had 3 people that he had in Moscow, okay, that he would send to Moscow. One was actually permanently there, and that's the guy that was taking care of the media. And his name is Codogno. He had a banker, all right, that opened up a bank, an Italian bank in Moscow, all right, and his name is Fallico, and he was taking care of a lot of the contracts. And then we have Valentini, who's another guy that was in energy contracts. Okay. So what you have, right, is that Berlusconi, first of all, gave that veneer of respectability to Putin they didn't have, because Putin was a nobody. He was showing up in tracksuits. He was just awful. Okay. He had no personality whatsoever. Actually, there's a great picture of Putin right in the beginning, okay, where he's got his jacket slung over his shoulder. And I found the exact same picture in the exact same position in Berlusconi. Okay.
Wow.
So right in the beginning, all right.
We're going to say that again, because can you stop for 1 second? It looked like the video cut out.
No, that was just you.
It was just you, Heidi.
That was just me. Okay.
Yep.
Well, we'll cut this part out then. But
okay.
I missed the beginning. You said he had a picture of him slung over.
Yeah.
Can I
there's a
count you in to
famous
tell that
picture
story again?
Sure.
Yes.
Let me count
Okay.
you to tell the
What?
story again. Sorry, guys.
Sure.
Three,
No problem. No problem.
2, and 1.
So
What?
what? Let's say what I found. This is absolutely incredible. I found a picture of Putin. This must have been in 91 when they were sorry, in not 91, in 1999, 2000. Okay. They were trying to give him sort of like image, to create this statesman. And I found this picture of him standing at his desk and he had a jacket slung over his shoulder, and he was sort of looking, suave and all that kind of thing. And I found the exact same picture of Berlusconi, even the way he put his hands. Okay, it was absolutely incredible. But let's remember that Berlusconi is the one who gave Putin, as I was saying before, that veneer of respectability that he lacked. Nobody knew who he was, right? So what was Berlusconi after? Simply to get those contracts and different things like that. Now they stopped him. He tried. He tried to sign one contract that basically would have made Italy completely dependent on Russian oil and gas, but that got stopped. Okay, luckily in Parliament they kicked up a big fuss about it, but it's not just Berlusconi. They've penetrated everywhere here in Italy. It's very, very difficult. Very difficult.
Well,
But
what's
anyway,
interesting about
that
what
was,
you're saying is that 2 weeks ago we had our mutual friend Tuomas Ilves on, the former president of Estonia, and he explained that if you really want to read a great book about the history of Russia, you need to read the Mario Puzo's The Godfather.
He's absolutely right.
You just said,
he is
kind of played right into
absolutely
that.
right. Okay. And I mean, it's almost everything. It's like these are mobsters. This is the mentality. And I know that this is really hard for people to understand because we have our Western mentality, right? Where, okay, we have dialogue and we sit and you've got contracts and you sit and you try to get to a consensus, right? It doesn't work that way. They put, they're actual mobsters who threaten you. Okay. That whole scene with the horse's head in the bed and the whole thing, that actually fucking happens. Okay. So this is what we're dealing with.
Right? Otherwise,
Exactly. Because this is what we're dealing with. We're not dealing with somebody who is ready, who will honor a contract. That's absolutely out of there. So
again, I find it fascinating. Just again that you all in Gaslit Nation have been repeating is transnational crime syndicate. That's run,
you're
over
absolutely
and over
right.
and over. The fact that it's not a political party. It's not.
No,
it's a crime
because
syndicate.
remember, Putin is two things. First of all, he's ex-KGB and he was head of the FSB. Okay, so we're talking secret services. And then, okay, he's a mafia guy. Okay, he hooked up. He put together, okay, the state is run by these two entities. All right. That's the way we have to look at it. So we're not talking about a normal elected official who follows rules.
No.
It's not the way it works.
It's a mafia state run by a mob boss, and there's many tentacles to that. And one thing that is maddening to any of my friends who are historians is that the West keeps on treating him as if he's legit, and they have these summits and they have these meetings as if they're leaders just having a little light lunch, and it's like he needs to be treated like the war criminal and the human rights violator that he is.
That's right.
When I saw Jake Sullivan, our Defense Department spokesman, National Security Advisor, on television, basically begging Putin for peace, right? Biden's calling him. Why? I don't understand that.
Yeah, no, he needs to be treated like a pariah.
He needs to be treated like a criminal and a punk. Not as a world leader.
And not as some thought leading genius that that's muscular and compete in.
I have a question about Italy in particular, especially because you mentioned that the fascism started to make a reappearance in a major way 2014, right?
Yeah.
So it did here too in a different way on, dark websites like 4chan and 8chan and things like Gamergate, right? Which turned into the alt-right. There's a direct line from what was happening in 2014 on social media, and places like that. The common denominator, it seems to me, is Steve Bannon. Because Steve Bannon is the one who turned Gamergate into the alt-right. And also Steve Bannon was certainly involved in Italian fascism leading up through 2019 when he got his the place he was going to have as his training camp or whatever turned
The
down.
monastery.
But
Monastery.
my guess is he was seeding the Italian fascists starting probably around the same time that Gamergate and all that stuff started happening. I was just curious what you saw in terms of Steve Bannon, because I think he's a good crossover between these two stories.
Yeah, well, you're absolutely right. Actually, it started well before that, 2014. They start to have meetings with a group which is called that becomes a movement. It's the 5-Star Movement. Okay. And the head of the 5-Star Movement at that time, we can't even call him the head. He's sort of the media face. Okay. The guy that's up front. There were two guys. Okay. The one guy that actually started the 5-Star Movement. And they met up already in 2014, which is what I was seeing coming out of Facebook. Okay. Here they use Facebook principally. Okay. Not so much the dark web, all that kind of stuff. No, it was mostly Facebook. That's where I saw everything. So it was out in the open there. And then, of course, remember that here, applications like WhatsApp started a lot earlier than in North America. I was using WhatsApp when none of my family, was using it. I'm saying, well, why aren't you using it? But anyway, let's put that aside. So they began using, and Bannon hooked up. Okay, already. Okay, there was a lot of talk with Farage. Okay, as well. With Kareem in London. So this was already being seeded. Remember that Bannon was also, if I'm not mistaken, he went to speak at the University of Cambridge. And this was, I think, in 2014, but I have to check the date. I'm not exactly sure. I know that he went to speak there. Okay, so there was sort of like this Italy, London, and EU, because there were also some people in the EU, MEPs in the EU that were tied up in this whole thing. So we have, right? You're absolutely right, Jim. There's this line with Bannon, who then brings together, you have in 2018 is the big year in Italy, all right? That is when we have a government that is a radical right populist government, and it's composed of two main parties, this movement plus the League, Salvini's League. And Salvini, all right, they were already getting money, from Russia. And I know a lot of people are going to say, oh, where's the documentation? Well, I mean, remember, we do have a lot of, let's say, information of people who were high level in the League that they were receiving money through cultural associations. So let's remember that this is not like, here's my donation, because that is illegal. But you can give money. All right. You can set up cultural associations. You can set up chambers of commerce. There's the Italian-Russian Chamber of Commerce by a man whose name is Savoyini, and he was caught red-handed trying to get some money from Russia in the Metropole Hotel. And this was in 2019. So, I mean, there are all these little pieces of information that we have. So anyway, those are the two, that's where they operated. And Bannon Bannon operated. He's the one to form the government. They had to pick a prime minister. Okay, that prime minister's name is Giuseppe Conte, and he had to be okayed by Bannon, and he had to be okayed by Putin, and that happened. Okay. He was taken by one of the Berlusconi men. All right. Sorry, not one of Berlusconi's men, but he was in the party to Lavrov, and he was introduced to Lavrov. Okay.
Wow.
So this all, and I have to tell you that the group who okayed all of this and said, okay, we can go with Giuseppe Conte. This is a group in Rome. All right. That has that crazy cardinal, that guy.
Vigano?
Okay, Vigano's mentor. Plus, okay, some ex-generals.
Wow.
We have another guy that's in intelligence. This is a really fucking shady group that's in Rome. Okay. And they are, as you know, Cardinal Burke is the guy that's the head of this group. All right. And he's the guy that is heading up all of the anti-Francis Pope, okay,
So Opus
wing
Dei.
of the Vatican.
So
That's what
Opus
we're
Dei,
talking
yeah.
about.
No,
Exactly.
Yeah.
Cardinal Burke
Yeah.
is Knights of Malta.
Oh, Knights of Malta.
Okay.
Well,
Knights of Malta.
okay.
Okay.
Well, what's interesting to me about I'm always seeking the high concept because I think our viewers really, it's very helpful when we zoom in and get it all and then we zoom back out. We know, going back to Mussolini, that all of this shit is cover for corruption. And right now, I think what we are seeing, quite frankly, as we watch all the sabers rattling and all of that, is a lot of people, traitors in our own country, who I believe are trying to stay out of prison for their own corruption. And that is why I think things are escalating. And I think that you and Jim have very interesting, maybe somewhat diabolically opposed, but maybe not all the way, views on Putin. And I'd love to hear what you think, because I think everything he's doing is actually, quite frankly, from a place of weakness. I believe he starts wars when his ratings sag, and that he did not diversify. And so everything is, related to energy. And so I feel like he makes desperate moves. And of course, I want to hear your point of view on whether or not you think this is a empire in decline, and then I'd love to hear Jim's point of view.
Definitely.
I think you're both right.
Yeah. No, I think it is. I think that this is sort of like the last hurrah for him. Since, let's say, 1991, when the Soviet Empire fell, this is sort of like from 1991 to today, or when he got in, let's say in 1999, 2000, he simply, how can I put it? He simply procrastinated. Okay. This was sort of a slow decline. Okay. And this is basically his last gasp. The Russian state has serious economic problems. There hasn't been any investment in infrastructure or anything that they need. The one indicator that we all look at when we're analyzing this kind of stuff is life expectancy, male life expectancy, which is now at the lowest probably that it's been, okay, for a very, very long time. So this is sort of, they were able, with this kleptocracy, they were able to how can I put it, just squeeze out any of the money that they could. All right. Most of it through energy contracts, because if you take a look at the pipelines that are running through Europe, each and every one of those countries is compromised. Okay. They've got political, let's say, people who are politicians in their pockets. They've got people who are, let's say, intellectuals in their pockets, all that kind of thing. But it's all along those pipelines, all those countries that are along the pipelines. That's what you're looking at.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But yeah, definitely, it's a country in decline, and he's done whatever he could to his own people, to the Russian civil society, jailed them, They have
Yeah.
no opposition that is a real opposition. He has extended his presidency now until 2036,
Yeah.
changed the constitution, concentrated
Yeah.
concentrated power in his own hand, in central, okay, taking it out of, let's say, the governors in different areas
Yeah.
and things like that.
Or-
This
or
is
the
what he's
Duma.
done. Yeah, well, no, it's a joke, right? Elections are a joke.
What's that?
All right.
Hillary Clinton was the one who said that he fears the Gaddafi ending. And I
Well,
think
of
he does.
course.
I don't know how he sleeps unless he's, again, we've talked on the show before about what kind of mental state you must be in to lead kleptocracy where you're bleeding the wealth out of your country for your own, pole dancing studios. Jim, let's get your point of view on
Ooh,
this.
can I just say something about pole dancing?
Sure.
You know that.
That's going to be a great.
No, because it's like,
There's
okay,
a
you know how
segue.
That's a
I'm a
great
bit
drop.
Virginia. I'm a bit Virginia wolfish. Okay,
Oh,
like
wonderful.
something, you say something and my mind starts going
Yeah, sure.
in
Me
a
too.
different direction. But we'll get back to this. But you know
Yeah.
that Berlusconi had his own pole dancing. He had his own ring, right, of prostitutes.
Yeah.
Did he? I didn't
And
know.
it was the same
Yeah.
kind of room. He had the pole dancing thing there with all the women.
Oh, my God.
And
Yeah.
that kind of situation. But anyway, I'm sorry. I interrupted,
No,
but
it's
I had
okay.
to get
I
that
had
out
only
there.
read about Berlusconi, and because I knew you were coming on the show, I watched a bunch of videos and interviews, and I still feel like I need a shower. Like I just
Yeah.
the sleaze
70
and the
court cases.
grotesquerie and
Wow.
Oh, yeah.
God, I feel
70
like
court cases against
And
him.
dead
70.
witnesses and just all sorts of
Ooh.
crazy shit with that guy.
Oh,
Ooh.
yeah. No. I
Ooh.
mean, intimidation. He bought off all those women. Okay.
Mm.
There were
Yeah.
3 cases against him for that, just for that. Okay. We're not
Yeah.
talking about the other 67 cases that are out there. Okay. Where he bribed high level people in the government and in the forces that were looking into his cases and different things like that. Anyway, 3 cases against him just for this. Okay, and they admitted, his accountant actually in the 3rd case admitted, I had to get out of the bank. All right, and I'm sorry to say that it's the bank of my city. He had to get out of the bank 250,000 euro a month to pay these ladies, to keep them in hush money.
Wow.
Yeah.
This is all
Wow.
I mean,
documented, by the way. I'm not saying anything you can't find.
the harms of these types of greasy leaders
Oh.
owning media stations and then distracting with all of the
There
titty
you go.
stuff is just very. I mean,
Yeah.
I got into this fight because I didn't want somebody who owned beauty pageants to be a president because I have a daughter. It's like, why would you want
Yep.
someone who rates
Yep.
women on a scale? And then you, of course, unmask all this corruption. Back to Jim
Yeah, let's get
Stewartson's
back
point of
to-
view on the
Exactly.
decline of the empire. I see it that way. I've read tons of Russian history. These are the longest suffering people. They continue to suffer under this horrible mafia state that he's created. And these stories never have good endings. So that's my point of view. Jim, let's hear from you.
So yes, Russia is a failed state, but that doesn't matter. So my concern is that Putin doesn't think about Russia at all. He does not care about Russia per se.
No.
Interesting.
Putin's philosopher is Alexander Dugin. Alexander Dugin pushes Eurasia. Eurasia is the idea that all of Europe and all of Asia will come together under the control of the new Soviet Empire, with Moscow as the 3rd Rome. That's the essence of Duginist philosophy, and that's literally what Putin is trying to do, right? And he's setting up in Ukraine in order to, in his mind, get himself in position militarily to begin the process of actually doing that kinetically. Now, in order for him to even consider such a thing, right, what does he have to do? He has to weaken his opposition, right?
Yeah.
Weaken NATO, weaken the United States, etc., right? So he took over Crimea in 2014. And in 2013, he got some compromise on Trump. Not that he needed more, but he did. He got some more. And then Flynn and Putin come together in 2015, right? And then suddenly all of these psyops, these psychological operations start happening in the United States. And, we don't need to go through those details. But now we have a third of Americans don't believe that Joe Biden is the president.
Free fair election.
And like 10% believe that the Biden administration should be violently overthrown in order to put Donald Trump back. That is, for me, the
That's scary.
difference
Yeah.
between where we were and what
Yeah.
Putin's position was before and what it is now. That's the only reason why I disagree that Putin is acting out of a position of weakness. I think economically, if you're looking at Russia, sure, but he's got Flynn, Bannon, Stone, Prince, Thiel, all of these guys basically doing his business inside of the United States, plus a large network, as you discussed, of infiltrators on the left and the right who are doing his work, from Tucker Carlson to Glenn Greenwald, right? And the whole horseshoe in between. So my concern is that we are underestimating his resources at this point because he has captured a large amount of American resources on his side. And so that's the only the clarification I want to make about Putin's position, is that yes, there on one level is a desperation, on another he's actually done an incredibly good job of phase one.
So what I want to say before everybody chimes in is that I think we're almost talking about two different things. I think we're almost talking about non-kinetic and kinetic. And I feel like non-kinetic, if you have that thread that I did from that NATO report, Sean, it's all there. Everything that 3 years ago I threaded out this NATO report on war fighting, on Russian hybrid warfare. And every time I stumble upon it, we're living through everything. This team is experiencing that. Kinetically, obviously, we have a military that, as you have said, that we should not underestimate unless, of course, they've been infiltrated. Whereas I don't think we should overestimate Russia's military, as you've said that. And that's all I wanted to say before we continue, is I think that Jim's right. I think Jim's right and you're right.
Yeah, by the way, I talked to the author, Keir Giles.
Oh, he's a good friend.
So it's I'm glad that you brought that up. Indeed. But you know what? I think we can reconcile the two positions if you really think about it, because here I think what the weakness that we're talking about is more where he's coming from psychologically. Okay. Is a position of weakness. Okay. What he has, and Jim is correct. I mean, there's a lot of power. Okay. For him, it's just power. Okay. That's all he really thinks of. But it's not someone who can get up in the morning and drink a cup of tea without getting somebody to taste it for him. You know what I mean? That's the kind of thing. All right. And that's, to me, that's the way I look at it, in the sense that, I mean, this guy, really, he's got some real deep psychological problems. Okay. This is not normal. This is absolutely not normal. But for him, the only thing that really counts is power. That's it. Raw power. That's about it. Right. And he's surrounded himself with people who, Dugin, I think, was very much in vogue in, let's see, 2014, right? He still is, and with a lot of groups. He probably has a lot of connections outside, like here in Italy, for example. He's got tons of connections. He's been here various times. But the people that are around him now are people like Patrushev, Shoigu, which is the Minister of Defense. Although, I mean, these are people that are around him. Mind you, it's not like he listens to them. He tells them what to do. So these are his yes men, the way that Trump had his yes men. The exact same thing.
Funny, they were all the same yes men.
Yeah.
but
like Narton. Yeah, like Session, for
Hi.
example, right? In energy,
Yeah.
you've got
Oh, God.
Prigozhin,
I just got
the
triggered.
chef. All right, so that's
Yeah.
with the Wagner and everything.
I was
Yeah.
going to tie these two back into Jim's point and Steve
Yep.
Bannon. I remember,
Yep.
and I looked it up in 2014, before Trump even announced. Bannon helped get Cambridge Analytica off the ground.
Exactly.
They did focus groups prior to the 2014 midterm elections. The only foreign thing that they tested was Americans' reaction to Putin. That was the only foreign
Wow.
person that they tested.
Yeah.
Oh,
And it
that's really good to know.
turns out a lot of Americans who really like the idea of a strong authoritarian leader, they said, and people were quite defensive in focus groups of Putin's invasion of Crimea. That was the only
Yeah.
foreign thing they tested in 2014.
Wow.
Well, that's because they have this fear of a brown planet, so they've harnessed this racism, and they look at him as the great white hope, the great anti-gay, anti-brown white hope, which is
Yeah.
absurd. But
Which
I've
ties
had
in
to
with what
explain
Jim
that to
was saying
people in
with
my own
Dugan,
life.
right?
Mhm,
Which is
exactly.
Right.
what we can tie it in with
Right.
what Jim was saying with Dugan, because that's all of the traditional Christian,
Yeah.
nationalist
Mhm.
ideology, right? Because that's what
And there's a lot of
what it is.
money to force that narrative. Go ahead, Hi-Fi.
All right, here's what I want to know. Has there been any talk about the completely inorganic anti-vax protests that are popping up all around the globe? You've got them in Paris, you've got them in Germany, you've got them in Australia, you've got them in New Zealand, Canada, United States. I mean, to me, this seems like Putin's fifth column. He's trying to screw up his enemies on the eve of him sauntering into Ukraine.
Certainly
Yeah.
looks like that. I mean, I'm looking at a few channels. Okay, put myself on a few channels. I don't know how many of them are actually bona fide, in the sense that they know. The Italian channel is absolutely hilarious, by the way, because they keep arguing in it, which is very Italian. Yeah, I'm sitting there reading these, and I'm actually like, okay, this is pretty funny. I should, publish some of this stuff.
Yeah, you should do
But
that.
yeah, you're absolutely right. Remember, this is going to explode. This is only the
Yeah.
beginning of the chaos
Yeah.
that we're going to see.
Mhm.
We can see
Yeah.
it on, for example, on Fox, the way Tucker and Josh Hawley, have been pushing the narrative. This is tame right now. Okay, guys. So I don't know if the trucker convoy thing will actually take root and really cause chaos. I can tell you that here in Italy, we do have laws that do not permit you to block roads for safety regulations. So they'll probably haul them in and take them out. There's also in France, they're pretty, they go down pretty hard, on this kind of thing. We've also had a lot more in Europe. We've had a lot more practice with how to deal with this because of the anti-masks that started in Germany, by the way, that were funded and, well, not really funded. They were sort of nudged along by a lot of Germans who are in the Die Linke party,
Mhm.
that is the extreme left and hooked up, with certain Russians. That started like in March 2020, right from the get-go. And that sort of mutated, and that's where they're probably all the same people. I can tell you
Yeah.
that they're probably the same people, because in the Italian chat, this is absolutely hilarious. In November, they tried to block all the ports because of the mask mandates. Okay. So in Trieste, there's a port there, very important port. It's one of the most important ports for the import of gas and oil. Sorry, for oil, not gas. Okay.
Mhm.
And I'm looking through this chat of the convoy, and they're giving addresses of where they're going to go and do an aperitivo, for cocktails. All right. So there's like,
Mhm.
okay, we're going to organize. Let's meet up for cocktails. And they gave all the addresses of the places where they're going to meet up. And I said, hold on a minute. This is all around Trieste. These people have to be the same. Okay. So I started looking into it. Okay. So basically what we're seeing is that people who were the anti-mask went into the anti-vaccine,
Mhm.
and then they migrated into now this convoy business. All right.
Mhm.
Now remember that here the truckers are not going to sit there. It's expensive, guys.
Oh, yeah.
Gas is
Yeah.
expensive in Europe. They're not going to
Yeah.
do that.
Yeah.
In London, are you kidding me? There's a surtax. There's a
Yeah.
tax on gas. All right, consumption, overconsumption. So
These
I
are
mean,
those of us who study authoritarianism and fascism see that this is the same thing that happened 100 years, a variation of the trucks in Italy with the flags and with the mobs and the whole thing. So we see the patterns, and the maddening thing is that, again, I don't have a television, so I don't have to watch any of this. I can read it or see clips, but I don't have to be assaulted by it. But because the fourth estate barely exists anymore, people they don't see anything beyond just like these scary images. So what we know about these things is not trickling, I think, out into a mass way. And that's
no.
the great frustration, and part of the reason that we do shows like this. I have multiple questions for you. If I can jump in, I would appreciate it, unless somebody has something burning they want to say. Okay. There were so many incredible things that you brought up in our pre-interview. I just want to ask you, what do you see Putin's play right now with Ukraine? If you were, able to forecast, what do you see happening in, the next 24, 48, 72 week, month? Like, what's your prediction?
Oh no, I don't even think we're going to get that far.
Okay.
It's hourly right now.
Okay.
We are monitoring the situation hourly. Actually minute by minute. I'm on
Yeah.
different
Yeah.
channels and different things, and we're constantly sending each other information. Yeah, it's very tense, guys.
Yeah.
This is serious shit, by the way.
Yeah.
I know that a lot of people, I get very upset because I'm on social media and on Twitter, and there are just some comments that really anger me because we're talking about a democratic country, Ukraine, who fought off Putin in 2014. They have maintained the line for us all in Europe and in the United States, managed to, keep him at bay. All right. And this escalation, first of all, I do want to explain something about escalation, because a lot of people are saying, yeah, but they're in their own country. Well, fuck. Okay. There are laws, there are regulations inside treaties that the countries sign. Okay. If you're going to be doing a military exercise somewhere, that has to be documented and given to the OSCE. And they monitor and they say, okay, you guys are using these howitzers, you're using these tanks, you're using these helicopters in these concentrations and with these numbers. Okay. That's the way it works. That's because what can happen is that some idiot, okay, sits there and says, oh my God, there's a bomb coming over. Okay. They report it, and then you could actually have an accident. And a war starts because of an accident. That's why the reporting on this is extremely important. Huh? So basically, this escalation is not due to military exercises. We do have them going on now, the Resolution 2022 in Belarus. Okay. But prior to that, and he's continuing to escalate in 3 areas, especially, which we saw mapped together before we started this, so that, and I do invite anybody, go and look at maps, because otherwise you don't understand what's happening. North of Kiev, there's concentrations there.
I'll bring them up, yeah.
North of Kharkiv, and it's very close. We're talking 10 kilometers from the border. And then you have a concentration in the south, all right, down close to Crimea. Now, the big area that we're all looking at is the area around Kharkiv, because Kharkiv is an important industrial area. And that's something that, to keep in mind. But
can you tell
they're encircled. They're encircled, love. They're encircled.
Can you please tell our American viewers and our international viewers why they really need to give a fuck about this? This is not something happening in a faraway land that will not have any impact on Europe or the United States. Can you please tell them why they need to care?
Because we have lived from the Second World War up until today with a rules-based international order that was based on the respect, for the integrity of nations across the world. We have lived with, let's say, trying to come to a consensus, not use war or the threat of war to get what you want. Okay. They're a democracy. If Ukraine falls, because it is a democracy, let's remember that, then we have not protected it enough, and we're not protecting any other country. Let's remember that Russia is on the border with Ukraine, but also the Baltic states, right? Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, all right? Poland is there, okay? These are areas that could be vulnerable.
Yeah.
And if that falls, we are giving the signal to every single fucking authoritarian across the world, you can do whatever you want. We are not going to protect anyone. That's the thing. And you know what? It's not just kinetic warfare, non-kinetic warfare. If let's say there's a cyber attack, okay?
Yeah.
How are you going to prove that it's the Russians that did it? How are you know how long that takes to prove? I'm sure that you talked to Tomas about this with the cyber attack in 2007. And he knew, and it took 3 weeks to figure it out. And everybody's like, well, how do you know it's them? You know what I mean?
Yeah, and a decade for a report to come out.
Exactly.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So this is what we're talking about. And if people think that he's going to stop at Ukraine, then I got some land for you in Florida if you want to buy it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now Putin owns most of Florida.
It's funny you mentioned Poland, because I've got my girls. We got our RadPod viewers, Holly and Sharon, sending us minutely updates on the Ukraine situation, and they just let me know that Poland apparently opened its borders for Americans fleeing Ukraine right now. No advanced approval is required. So, I mean, as you say, this is happening minute by minute. Thank you so much for that beautiful response. We are going to clip the shit out of that and try to get it as far and wide as we possibly can. Now, one thing, though, I do want to
Exactly. One thing I want viewers to know, I mean, they can invade, okay? They have the force right now. We're talking they are over 150,000. They're probably getting close to, and that's just men. We're not talking naval forces. We're not talking about already the forces that are in Donbass. Okay, these numbers do not include this stuff. All right. So they've got the force to do this. It's a completely different thing for them to keep it and to occupy it. In Kharkiv, if they wanted to keep Kharkiv, they would have to have a force of about 80,000 people. Okay, Kharkiv in a certain area towards Donbass. Okay, what we're talking about here, what a lot of analysts are looking at, is that there's a natural divide of the Dnipro River. So what we're afraid of is that the west part, okay, from the Dnipro River west, would be cut off from the east. That's how, okay, this is what we're looking at. This is what we can see, okay, from the way that these troops and this force is positioned. There are a lot of people that are going to say, oh, this is just, he's using this as a threat. He really doesn't want to invade. I say, take him to his word. If this is what he fucking wants to do, okay, I mean, we do have to realize that we're not dealing again with Joe Biden. And thank God Joe Biden is there. Can you imagine what the fuck would have been like for Trump to be there?
I was just thinking that he would he handed him everything.
He would have put a bow on the Ukraine and been like, here you go, have fun.
This would have happened a lot earlier.
Yeah, it would have.
Yeah.
It would have been like, okay, go ahead, take Ukraine. You know, take a country? How would you guys like if, I don't know, they took Alaska, for fuck's sakes?
Yeah.
Which could happen, by the way.
Right. Yeah.
They're on the other side.
Right there.
That's what Sarah Palin's up there for, right?
Sarah Palin's
She's going to protect us?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh.
Nah, she's gonna open the door for me. Are you kidding me?
She'll be the mayor of Alaska.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Alaska Stan.
Like, Sean, you Sean, you had your scarf
You-
on
Yeah.
for, right? Dynamo Kiev. Okay. We need to stand with Ukraine, guys. That's it.
Yeah,
That's it. We
that's
need to
it.
Goddamn
stand
right
with
we do.
Ukraine.
That's our high concept. You know,
Hey,
we
hey,
need to get that kind of messaging out. And I am such a fangirl that I was like, even though we're friends, I was so nervous because I wanted this to go so well. And oh my God, if we
Oh,
can
it's a
just
great
take a few more
conversation.
minutes
Yeah.
of your time, that would be
Yeah.
incredible.
Yeah.
One thing that I thought was really incredible to note is that when we talk about these authoritarians, and ever since, Trump was, installed, you would see Putin's mug everywhere. And it was just grotesque. Again,
Yeah.
if Hillary had been the rightful president, as she should have been, we wouldn't have had this, the strong men, shirtless men on horses resurgence. And you made a point that I think was very
Which he
important.
got from
That
Berlusconi.
I'm not
hey,
surprised at
hey,
all.
nipples gotta
He
breathe, man.
did. He
Nipples gotta
did.
breathe.
Not
I'm
only
going
nipples.
somewhere here, guys. You made a point that as much of a grotesque as these guys are that we're talking about, that there are even degrees that are worse. And you pointed to Belarus. Can you tell us an
Oh,
example
God.
of what happened with an Olympian recently? Again, so we can frame these people who think authoritarianism is cute. They don't realize that these things that they're
Oh,
being
God.
mind fucked into believing will take away all their freedoms. Can you give us just a little sample of what that was?
Yeah. This just I saw this, and you know what? I couldn't watch the video. I couldn't watch it. Okay. Lukashenko, all right, is the dictator there in Belarus. And in 2020, he stole the election, the rightful, okay, the person
Yeah,
that
we
won
saw
that
that.
election was Tsikhanovskaya. She's amazing. All right. And all the
Courageous.
women, by the way, all the women, because this was a group of women, okay, who did a lot of camp. Oh yeah, no, really, I have to give it to them. But anyway, this video, all right, because we need to understand that the repression that was unleashed on Belarusian civil society after 2020, August 2020, was unprecedented in that country. Jailings, beatings, people, right? There are over 1,200 people in political prisoners right now in Belarus. And if
We got to
anybody
care
wants to
about
write
this
to them, you
shit.
can. Yeah, well, they're all,
That's
and I
actually a
mean,
good
look,
call that's a good call. We'll take a note on that. We'll have our viewers write to
you
Belarusian
can.
political
It's
prisoners. That's
through
beautiful.
Vyazna, okay, through the Vyazna site.
Okay.
Anyway, this video showed an Olympic athlete who had not performed well, and he was forced to apologize for his performance. And this reminds me of the Chinese. They do the same thing where they tape you. They did this to Roman Protasevich, okay, when he was hauled off the Ryanair and he was beaten up, and they had his girlfriend in the jail cell next to him being
like
either raped
video.
and also okay. This is what we're dealing with. This is what we're dealing with. Okay. And
we got to care. We got to care about this.
This is stuff that is medieval. This is
And
medieval
if they
shit.
aren't stopped, that shit's going to start happening here in the United States, and I don't think people fucking get it.
No, people don't
right.
get it. They
That's
don't
right.
understand how fragile, because democracy works if we make it work. It's not going, and it's not done automatically. Nothing should be taken for granted, ever. Look at Canada. Look at Canada. I was born in Canada, guys. Okay. When I saw those truckers, I said, what the fuck is going on? Then I had already started looking about 2 or 3 years ago. I was already looking into the Atlas group. I was looking into different groups that were seeding, okay, separatist movements in Alberta. And, with the Koch brothers, all right, and funding from the States, and that kind of shit was going on.
When I saw the sign saying "Get rid of Trudeau," all I thought about, this is the same money, and there's evidence of it that tried to take our blue state governor away a few months ago.
Yeah, in California.
And with a very simple, high concept campaign, we said, don't vote for the Republican, recall. And people are like, oh, this is an op. It's a Republican recall. They got it. When I saw those bogus Trudeau signs, I'm like, oh yeah, this is
Well,
dark money
yeah,
infecting somebody else's democracy again.
yeah. Well, they use the same people that by the way, that printed up the Trump flags. They use the exact same people in Canada.
So
Jeez.
it's
Like, what the
interesting
fuck?
that you say
I mean, come
yeah,
on,
it's
my
not that
guy.
hard.
Well, so
God.
When you
one of the
say
people.
medieval, I'm going to just
Sorry,
make one quick point,
go
hi-fi,
ahead.
because it's burning in my brain right now. When you said medieval, that this is medieval, that's the exact same word that a police officer used at the January 6th insurrection, that it was like a medieval battle. And
Yeah.
one thing that we've mentioned on the show, which I'm going to mention again, is the reason it went the way it did is people like Jim warned people to stay away. He said, you guys are, you guys showing up is the game here. So stay away. And then all these folks who showed up who were mind fucked had to fight were the cops in what he could only describe as a medieval battle. So we
Oh
say
yeah.
it like if, but it's happened. It's happening. And that I think is
Yeah.
that's
I use that word
what the
because I live
alarming
in a
of the
medieval
sound.
city. I live in a medieval city that is
Wow.
surrounded by walls. Okay.
Hmm.
And it is and we also have a very, very ancient horse race that is run here from the medieval times. It started in
Wow.
1276. So, I mean, I've seen the battles here that are done. I mean, it's a word that I use on purpose because it really is. This is not,
Yeah,
it
it's
has
the
been
right word.
untouched by the whole Renaissance humanitarian, right? Philosophy. We're talking, it goes before that, okay, before any of humanism, which is how can I put it, the basis of what everything came afterwards. All right, the Renaissance, that whole period that taught us so much, and then obviously all the developments after that. But medieval is it's like dark shit. It's just dark times.
Well, that's what they want to go.
Power.
That's what they want to go back to. I mean, if you look at
Right.
Peter Thiel and his Dark
Serfs.
Enlightenment fascination,
Mhm.
yeah, they want serfs. They want us to be
Serfs.
peasants,
That's what they
and
want.
they want to be the lords and ladies up in their castles, right? The,
And quite frankly, the division between the haves and the have-nots is widened so much that the have-nots are willing to do the work that is amoral, and that is something that we're studying, quite frankly, on this show, which was founded for disinformation. I mean, we obviously could talk to you for 3 hours because you're brilliant and amazing. We've already
Yes.
gone over an hour. Does anybody have a final thought? I'm just going to be soaking this up. Like,
Hi-Fi's got
I'm
5 final
so
thoughts.
indebted to you.
I have one final thought that I want to bring up, and you were talking about the Canadian truckers, right?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so there's this big to do on GiveSendGo and GoFundMe and the funding. But what I found out, if you look at one of the persons who is supposed to be receiving the funding from the GiveSendGo fundraiser, this Adopt a Trucker, he is a far right Canadian politician who actually has a history of odd online fundraising. So, I mean, why is FinTrack, why is FinCEN not tearing these people up? I don't get it. But yeah, I just want to make that point about the Canadians.
Yeah, I think that
Yeah.
they are. I mean, I could be wrong about this, but my feeling is that Canada was not prepared and did not take. I mean, to counter this stuff, you have to have, let's say, a precedent. You have to take it
Yeah.
seriously. You have to invest in
Yeah.
investigations. You have to invest in understanding how do you counter this, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I was sending messages to people that I know that are intelligence in Canada, and I'm saying, "Are you guys looking into this? Are you looking into this? Because this could actually develop into something important, that could undermine." Because Canadians, I mean, I don't think they're asleep, but they sort of look at the States and say, "Oh, that can't happen here." The same way that the States looked at Europe and said, "Oh, look, that
Can
can't happen
will.
here." Well, it can.
Yeah.
And it will if you don't take the steps that are necessary
And it
to
is.
counter it. This is counterinsurgency, counterterrorism, because that's what we're talking about. And if you don't have the right people who have the background on how to fight this kind of thing, in the States, I have to say, is very good in it. All right. I mean, we shit on a lot of people and stuff like that, but I know there's a lot of good people working on this stuff, even all right, in the institutions and the intelligence services and things like that. So that's in Canada, I have no idea. I really don't, which is really
so just
disheartening.
never give up.
No,
So
no,
never give
never
up.
give up.
Never give up.
Never give. I
Jim?
do just want to mention one thing before. There was a fantastic article that came out, and I'd like to understand. I think this sort of encapsulates a lot of what we've been talking about today, and it's Anne Applebaum's article in The Atlantic, and it is called "Why the West's Diplomacy Keeps Failing." Okay. The assessment is superb. And it's everything I've, let's say, omitted today, and what I couldn't talk about or what we haven't touched on, but it also gives a really good idea of two mentalities, and we have persisted with our own mentality, thinking we're going to solve problems by not understanding the other. Okay.
That's right.
And in
we
this
are
case,
dealing with a country that's
perpetually
at war. And as our
and
friend
has
Paul
been
Mason
since
said,
Catherine the Great. Since Catherine the
as
Great, they've been doing this shit. Okay, so this is not
brassy
new.
German girl.
You know what? Putin isn't new. He's not new.
No.
I mean,
Yep.
Catherine the Great did it. Okay, I mean, they've been doing wars like this for ages. Okay, so this stuff isn't new. It isn't. Oh, there we go.
All I was going to do is give a shout out to Paul Mason, a previous guest, who gave a shout out to Trotsky, right, Jim? That you might not be interested in war, but war is interested in you.
War
And Russia
is certainly interested in
continually
you.
at war with us, and we are in an undeclared war, as Jim just explained previously in his Hellscape. Jim, you've got something you want to say?
I just want to invite you back for an entire show to talk about the Catholic Church.
Oh,
And
boy,
its various
I'll
branches
have to do some research. I will on it because I've started a little bit.
Because you brought up Vigano.
Yeah.
And Vigano, along with Cardinal Burke, are two of the leaders of a very, very dark sect of the Catholic Church that is basically trying to cleave off from the papacy and go back to before Vatican II, right?
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of those dynamics and a lot of very dark connections there that I think feed into a lot of this, and I'd be curious about your feelings on it. So.
That'd be amazing.
Good teaser for next time. Yeah.
I'd like to see if there's the connections also with the Russian Orthodox Church as well.
Oh yeah,
that's exactly right.
There's a lot
there.
Yeah, exactly.
Monarchy.
So that's
shit.
Well, these are sort of all of those movements and let's say religious movements that have been put aside. They're not mainstream. Each and every single political faction across the world probably has a nugget of 30% of their people that are inside some sort of party or faction that are extreme, or let's say radical to extreme. So even in the church, it's an institution, and there are factions.
2 billion Catholics, right? You know.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
look at all
we're not all the same
with their AR-15s in front of
We're-
Christmas trees over this last Christmas.
Mike Flynn, it was pushing Vigano through QAnon, through literally Q. Like he put Vigano's letters in Q drops.
I know.
I know.
Which is
that's what got him
really specific. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, that's what got him back into that. They took him away, right, from the States. He was recalled to Rome because of that shit. There's also a nun, if I'm not mistaken, that spoke during a Trump, during the RNC.
Well, have to come back. Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, there's a whole setup there. Yeah.
Hey, before we go,
And the
what is
corrupt
that?
links.
What is that? Obey? Is that a vinyl record behind you, behind your left shoulder?
Yeah.
Is that what is that?
No, it's a poster. I
Oh,
saw it and I
it's the
said,
Obey poster.
"Woo!"
Okay.
Yeah, it's just it's just a poster.
Gorgeous. I love it.
And I just said, yeah.
So for my summary is going to be from the papacy to medieval times. This is one episode that is just, I mean, we just keep raising the bar. We started really high and it's like, man,
Oh,
my
wow.
gosh,
We
No,
you're
we gotta-
amazing.
Thank you so much.
One thing I'd like you to do is tell our friends where they can find Kremlin File and any upcoming things to expect for season 2.
Yeah. Well, season 2, first of all, you can find us. We're online, kremlinfile.com. Okay. All our episodes are there. Every Wednesday night, okay, we release through Midas Touch. We release the episodes, and you can find those on Twitter and also Facebook, okay, and that kind of thing. My Twitter handle is Monique Camarra, so you can find me, okay, on Twitter and look at my feed, and I've got all sorts of shit there. So that's that. What is coming up? We are delving into all of Russian interference and connections in the States.
Cool.
And
Fabulous.
so we did season 1 where we looked at Europe, the inception, the birth, let's say, of this revanchist Russia, and how it webbed into all of Europe, basically. And then now we're in the States. So I think we're going to do something coming up. I think we've got January the 6th, an overview, and then we'll be looking into certain aspects of it. But the way we're looking at it is basically through, let's say, all the different pieces of the Russian.
Great.
Russian.
Please,
So
our viewers who have an extra buck and often ask me who they can support these brainy women at Kremlin File. They have a
thank
Patreon.
you.
Support them. This
Thank
work
you.
is done as civic duty, but it's very nice when people who can support do support. And some of our supporters often ask where else they can spend their
thank
money.
you.
So give it
That's
to these
really
ladies. I
kind.
have one last
Thank
thing
you.
I want to say. We love you. We are in the last inning of democracy is a quote that came from Malcolm Nance on your show, Kremlin File. Final sentence or thought on that before we depart?
That needs to be taken seriously. It will not look like January the 6th. It's going to be a series of insurrections. We've got to be extra vigilant from now on, not take democracy at all for granted. And that's what we've been talking about through this whole episode. It's not just in Russia. We've seen Belarus. We've seen now how Ukraine, okay, is in danger. And if we think that we are immune, then you are extremely naive. So this is, it's important. Okay, it's important. But yeah, that's what I can say just off the top of my head.
Thank you so much. You're amazing.
Thank you.
You're
Bye,
amazing.
guys. Thank you.
Thank you so much
Bye-bye.
for your
You're
time.
incredible.
She's good.
Wow. Wow.
I just want to hang out with her for weeks, man.
We gotta have her back on.
Just absorb.
We should give her 3 months to prep, Jim, and have that the Catholic Church talk. That'd be fascinating.
Yes,
I told you guys know I did 8 years of Catholic schooling, right? You know,
yes,
so
she
it was
told us.
a little triggering.
I have nothing against Catholics at all. I have nothing against Jesus or anyone believing anything they want. But when it gets perverted, it's bad.
Irish Catholic. I mean, I'm a terrible Catholic, but I'm Irish Catholic.
Deutscher Catholic. Wow, she gave us so much to think about. She's incredible. I am so, again, we just keep raising the bar. This show blows my own mind, and we're producing it. Like, wow, we just had Monique Camarra on from Kremlin File, and that woman knows history and the non-kinetic, kinetic. You know, her analysis is as good as anyone. So what a blessing to have her here today. All right, so I think we might have a digital dissent. Oh no.
Yes. Yeah, this one's a little homespun. So this is I don't even know how to introduce this other than I was on a phone call with Heidi, and I started hearing these strange noises, and it was sort of And I couldn't tell if it was exciting or what the deal was, but I made a little digital synth about it, and this is where you guys can see Heidi's true self come out, the excitement, and yeah, we'll talk about it after because it's just incredible. I wish I would have recorded the whole thing because this is only the last half of it. But here's what you get. Whoops, I do that every time.
Connor.
Paint your nails.
Oh my God. Oh, this could be a fucking game changer. Oh my God. Oh my God. I said our show is small, but we box above our weight. So pulling radicalized pods from Spotify podcasts was symbolic but meaningful. We make the announcement at the top of episode 11.
Mary Trump left a fucking fist bump.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Connor. First of all, I feel like I've been immortalized. I made it into Dissent.
It was the
sneaky
nail
bastard.
painting. The nail painting fucking did it for me. That was
Well,
boom.
I haven't seen Jim laugh this much in a long time, so that's good.
I have a little
listen.
OCD.
I fanboy just as much when I love Mary so much, like uncomfortably much. So
It's
that
so
was
good, man.
amazing.
It's
Well-
go ahead, Heidi.
All I wanted to say was that Sean and I were having a conversation. Obviously, we're under heavy fire to try to discredit us because our information's so good. And we were having a conversation on a day of heavy fire. And all of a sudden I look down and see that Mary Trump gave us a fist bump. And quite frankly, that kind of her bravery and that kind of backing on our little show meant a lot. And it was because we took our show off Spotify, which was the right thing to do.
And it's also a little peek into Heidi's, authentic personhood. She's awesome. She's genuine. She's honest. She's excitable. It's just
Heidi doesn't. She doesn't change. She's
there's no hiding shit there. I mean, come on.
Nope.
Anyways,
just-
that's the
yeah.
digital set. It was fantastic. It was so fun to put that together. It was
well
hilarious.
done. And thank you, Mary.
Yeah, wow.
Yes,
I'm
thank you,
honored
Mary.
to
Thank
have
you so
made
much.
it into the DD archives.
Made it.
Well, that was our show. I mean, hey, tell your friends, man, and if you have an extra buck, support the Patreon because we're doing big things. We're gonna do big things, and we love our viewers who stood beside us and are spreading the word that this is real. This fight is real.
And we got a live stream
It's more
recap on
real
Thursday.
than you guys even understand yet. It's about to get real.
Spread it like butter.
On that.